We want to thank everybody for coming out. Beautiful, beautiful Orange County spring evening, and I know there's lots of softball games and stuff, but we're super happy to have our leadership series again tonight, and we're going to continue to have some wonderful, wonderful guests as we have a wonderful a patriotic American coming out in a couple minutes. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend, Colonel Mark Bieger. Mark, come on out, sir. I'm going to call you Mark. You outrank me by many things. Good to see you, sir. Have a seat. So this will obviously be recorded tonight, and it'll be distributed on not only YouTube, but it'll also be on Spotify. Okay. And sir, we're so proud to have you today, and as Orange County is home to West Point. Yes. So let's start with Arizona. Okay, that's where you were born. Yes. But you ended up here, and then you ended up all over the world. We'll talk about Iraq and some other places. But you were born in Arizona. Let's hear about who Mark Bieger is. Okay.
Well, Steve, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for your leadership of our county here. This is really special, I think, what you're doing here. I've in preparation for tonight, I've walked through the previous episodes.
Oh wow!
Every single one is incredible. The guests that you have up here, I'm honored to follow. But the best part has been your interaction and your leadership of this county. So thanks for that leadership for so many years.
Thank you, sir.
My wife and I are the current one of the many benefactors of that, and it's a real honor and a privilege to be here this evening with this group. So thank you. Arizona. Army brat. My father was a non-commissioned officer in the United States Army for just a little over 20 years. Vietnam veteran. So we moved all over the country. And when he retired, we settled in Phoenix, which is where my family is, kind of Phoenix, southwest of the United States. Aunts and uncles, all cousins, that whole thing. So I got the opportunity to go to high school in a nice public school there in Phoenix. Really, up at that point in time, I was playing basketball, trying to get some good grades, trying to stay out of trouble, and really just head down, enjoying my classmates and experience. No real thought about the United States Military Academy or necessarily a conscious thought about this direction. My father's service, his example, always in the background. But my uncle, also a non-commissioned officer, field artillery, just a great man, was teaching at the time at the academy inside of the Department of Military Instruction. And he would send me these news clips and these stories and these little trinkets from the academy periodically. And I'll never forget one day in particular. I was playing basketball, not average, but he sent an Army practice jersey back home. It was black on one side, gold on the other, and I got this jersey from my uncle. And of course, it was probably on the sort of on the not entirely truthful with my classmates. But I said, hey, look, the academy's recruiting me here for basketball. So once I made that mistake, and I sort of over-advertised, at that point I was all in. I mean that's kind of a little bit of humor, but my father's service, my uncle's example. And the wonderful opportunity was presented, sort of for us. The rest is history.
Were you ever at West Point before you showed up here as a cadet?
First time, no,
wow.
never had been, which is crazy when I think back. It was summer of '87, never had been. I had heard stories from my uncle, and I had done a little bit of research, as much as you can back in the mid '80s. But yeah, the first time I stepped on West Point was our day, reception day for my class.
And was your dad was still with us when
yes.
when you became got accepted? Was
That's
he
right.
super proud? Or was he like, oh my God, you're getting into the Army?
Well, he was super proud.
That's awesome.
I mean, again, Vietnam veteran, didn't talk a lot about his service or his time overseas, but I think in an intense pride that his son was following his path. And I probably didn't think about it much, as a young kid, heading off to West Point. But I was absolutely following his path.
Wow.
For all the right reasons, because of the example he set for me.
Did you, like everybody, I mean, not everybody, I guess most people, when they go into the academy or basic training, like the first couple nights, you're like, oh God, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, For sure. West Point is one of those rare institutions. I mean, I was probably a little bit overconfident coming out of high school. You know, I thought I was, maybe a little bit cocky, kind of full of myself. Within minutes, West Point reminded me that I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And it's just an amazing experience over that first summer where they really, I won't say they bring you down to a certain level, but they make sure they humble you. They humble you regardless of where you come from. West Point brings together, I think we all know, but about 1,200 every summer from across the nation, our best and brightest young men and women that are gathering here. I mean, top of their class, captains of their football team, the very best, which we would hope for. But there in those first few hours, they humble you very quickly. And what that does for you is it kind of wakes you up a little bit, makes you react, but then it makes you look left and right at your teammates there, your classmates, and get very close, very tight. Because nobody can do this kind of thing on their own. You have to be working as a team from day one to get through that summer. So many stories and memories, but it was a crucible experience for me for sure. I think my classmates absolutely, and I think every class that's followed has been the same.
When I think from my knowledge of you, when you graduated, you had an engineering background?
Yes.
That's what it said on the bio.
That's right. That's on the diploma. But yeah.
So when you were there, once you got in, you're just like, I'm going to West Point, or when you get there, you figure out what you really want to steer yourself into, or did you make a lot of changes when you went into West Point?
I think again, I can only kind of speak, of course, for myself personally. Back in the 80s, we were sort of, I think, kind of one step at a time. No perfect path. Learning about this as we move through it. The cadets coming in nowadays, I think, are much more aware. They're much more. They've done a lot more research individually. The research is available to them, but they've done a lot more research. They've kind of thought through these steps. So I think I was, probably. I won't say ignorant, but I was not aware of all the opportunities that were going to be presented to me. I learned them pretty quickly, but it wasn't like a perfect 4-year plan or a 10-year plan. I think our cadets, and thankfully so, are much more ready when they get there on day one. They go through the very difficult that first summer, but after that they're moving very quickly towards that opportunity, and really I think seeking to achieve that full potential. I one quick story.
Of course.
So hopefully this kind of gives a sense, and I know there may be parents, there may be graduates in the audience, but there may be parents or grandparents. That first summer, and again this is 1987, so a few years ago, but it's the memories are like right there. We're in an auditorium a lot bigger than this, but same sort of setup. Wooden floor, dark. They packed the entire freshman class in here. This is like, maybe week 3 or 4. We haven't slept. We haven't eaten much. We're getting yelled at all the time, all that kind of stuff. But we pack ourselves into this auditorium, and this gentleman comes out from the door just like we did. Vietnam veteran, 6'3". He looked like he was 7 foot. He looked like he could just run through a wall. Camouflage. He's got a stogie in his hands. I didn't even know you could do that in a government building. I thought that was illegal or something. But he was above the law. Vietnam veteran comes out there, full colonel, camouflaged, carried. He's got an M16 with a bayonet, and he starts talking to us. And of course, we're intimidated. We don't know if we're going to get yelled at or what's going to happen here. But he gives this amazing speech about purpose and about service to the nation. And at one point, raises his voice, takes that M16, and slams it right into the wood of the floor.
Oh, wow.
Again, I didn't know if that was legal. I thought maybe he was breaking some rules and we were all going to get in trouble somehow. But it was so intense and so real. At that moment, thinking about him on stage as a Vietnam veteran, my father as a Vietnam veteran, my uncle, I pulled my eyes away, and I don't know why, but I looked to my left and right at my classmates. Every one of them were sitting up straight, laser focused on this American hero. And right then, I knew I was in the right place. At that moment, I just knew the purpose was right there. I was surrounded by the very best in the nation. And at that point in time, it was in my mind, I'm never going back. And my goal was to stay with my classmates and to graduate.
It's got to be intimidating going to West Point because everybody that goes there is pretty to the top of the top.
Yeah, they really are.
So, you know, like, hey, I can coach spy in a middle section here. There's no middle section.
There
Everybody's-
isn't. No, it's true. I mean, and it remains so today. Our, the class of 29 that's being gathered by the academy right now, and they're getting these envelopes in the mail, and they're having celebrations in their homes. They're incredible. I mean, they are truly our nation's best. The reason I say that is not because of some report or some PowerPoint chart. It's because we have the amazing opportunity to see these cadets every single day. The class of 25 is going to graduate here in less than a month at the end of May. These young men and women are the nation's very best. They are fit at a level that, I mean, I can't even imagine. They're brilliant academically. They're military trained to a very high level, but the best part about them is they're hungry and they're ready to lead. Thank goodness, because our nation's in a very dangerous and uncertain world, and we need our very best. So one of my main messages this evening is a message of just confidence in our military academy, and admiration, sincere admiration for the Corps of Cadets.
It's one of the things I wanted to get to at the end, but it just keeps coming up in my mind from the dialogue with us now. It just seems like the entire world is upside down. From we got a dog at home, and I'm allergic to dogs, so the dog apparently likes to sleep on me at night. It's a Labrador Retriever, and my doctor is Korean, and he was talking to me today, and he was talking to me about Korea and how unstable. He goes, I grew up there, and he's got family members there, and in the last 25 years, we're going to talk about the Middle East and fighting in Iraq and, that war on terror. And now we're getting back to these big conventional and pacing adversaries like China.
Right.
But, the last 25 years now, North Korea has nuclear power, and now they have a seat at the table, or nuclear weapons. And, our enemies are on the rise, and everybody seems to be, fighting with each other. But I am blessed to be able to interact with cadets, not like you do, I mean, unbelievable. But I have friends like Jeff Reynolds and the superintendent, the garrison commander, that invite me on occasion to West Point, and I get to see these young men and women. I'm like, wow, at least we have that going for us. Because I think what's commonly brought up around when everybody complains is, where are these good leaders that can unite us instead of divide us?
Yeah.
And I think we see them every day.
Yes.
And I'm hoping, and I think gives me the hope for the future.
Yeah. Steve, that was beautiful. And I would, you do know, because you see and you interact, you engage and you care. They are exceptional. And the fascinating thing for me is that, these young ones volunteered to come to West Point, knowing that the world is a dangerous place. I mean, they grew up seeing what we were doing overseas here, since 9/11. So there's no secrets. I mean, they know, and they know it better than us and what's going on in some of these very dangerous places. Yet they still come. They work their tails off over the course of 4 years, and then on that graduation day, there's a celebration. A couple of them were getting married, right after, that kind of thing. But there's a very real sense of purpose and urgency that's there as well. And there's no secrets. I mean, they're eyes wide open, and it's an inspiration. It truly is.
So, sir, when you graduate West Point and you're now into the thick of it, going into the U.S. military as now a young second lieutenant, right?
Right.
And so you've had commands from platoon all the way up to brigade, and obviously some staff positions, including the Pentagon. Let's talk a little bit about your military career, because you're graduating in 91. 10 years later, the war on terror really kicks in.
Right. Yeah, that's, So what I say is, West Point, changed my life. It transformed me as a person and maybe as a leader. But that service in the early years as a lieutenant and a captain, I think those are the times that really shaped me, and thankfully so, because when 9/11 did occur and we went when we went into harm's way, not overconfident by any measure, because you can't be, that's crazy, but feeling very confident about the the units that I was a part of, about the soldiers and the officers and the non-commissioned officers that I served with, and about our shared purpose. I think back to I got the opportunity to serve in an airborne battalion up in Alaska, and there may be paratroopers in the audience, and many of my peers served it in the 82nd, and did a lot more, maybe those kind of airborne operations. But that unit up in Fort Richardson, Alaska, was one of the, and this is pre 9/11, was one of the tightest, most cohesive organizations I've ever been a part of. Leaders, the non-commissioned officers were, the world's very best. You're kind of isolated. Well, you are isolated. You're up in Alaska. The sun doesn't come up sometimes. All the kids are dressed up like little Eskimos because you don't want them to get, frostbite. But we got really super tight as an organization. And this is, 90. I got to ask my wife to confirm the dates, but 98 to 2000 or so. So pre 9/11, there's there's threats out there. But there's nothing crazy that's, I did get the years wrong, 96, 98. But that unit at that point in time, and Steve, I know you've been a part of organizations just like this, we felt like we could tackle the world. We felt like whatever the challenge was that the nation needed us, we were ready. We were ready to jump. We were ready to fight. We were ready to do whatever we needed to. And that was really important because I was a young captain at that time. We didn't know that we wanted to stay in the military kind of for the rest of our careers. But that assignment, that unit sealed the deal for us. And it was kind of game over. From that point forward, there were hard times, terrible sacrifice, but we did feel like we were part of, the world's strongest army. And honestly, every assignment after that was better than the one before. Right. So maybe luck, maybe chance, but it was an amazing career.
Did you think after September 11th happened, was that like a gut punch, like, oh my God, we got to get ready? Or you guys felt ready? Whatever. I'm a Navy guy. Yeah. I've been on the ship for 10 minutes of my life. I've spent my whole career on the ground.
Right.
In conventional, training at Army bases, doing Army stuff.
Right.
Deploying, I think I deployed most with the Marines.
Yeah.
Now the new order for my guys or my people is to get back to being a Navy guy. Yep. And none of us have done that.
Right.
But you were an Army leader. Did you feel like we were ready to go to fight the war on terror? Or were we ready to fight the Russians September 11th?
It's a great question. When I think back to that time, we were mentally and emotionally, we wanted to go wherever the nation needed us. Yeah. Didn't know at the time, but I think all of us, at that point in time, we wanted to react. So mentally and emotionally, but again, we really needed to get ourselves really ready, for the challenges that we were about to face. So thankfully, it wasn't, one day 9/11 hits, next day we're all, racing for an airplane. We had a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of time to make sure, we were straight. But that first unit that I deployed with, oh my gosh! When I think back to the officers and NCOs, they are some of my heroes today. What I saw them do, for our nation, for each other, in combat was unimaginable, heroic, and some things that I'll never forget. But a long reaction to a very good question. I think mentally and emotionally we were ready, but there was some important stuff we needed to do before we deployed.
The principles and leadership that you learned at West Point, they came into play when you were a young leader in Iraq and in combat?
Yes, I think absolutely. Again, West Point changed my life. It changed the trajectory of it shaped everything else that happened. I was lucky enough to meet my wife now many years. I'm terrible on math. 30, 30, how many years, James? I know, 30.
Oh boy. I can give you a ride home later if you need
32, one. 32 and a half, 33. Jeez, that's embarrassing. Hopefully we can edit that. I don't know if there's edit possibility, but 33 years later, of course, 3 boys, the whole thing. But in terms of leadership, West Point, the two things that really stick out in my head from when I reflect back on the 4 years was an intense focus on duty, honor, and country from day one. I mean, you walk around the academy and it's engraved, it's carved in granite everywhere you go. It's the honor code and duty, honor, country is the first thing that you're greeted with. And that focus on character and the idea that character matters and the idea that character is most important is a powerful lesson for a high school, for any of us, but for a high school kid, coming to this amazing institution. So that's the first thing you're greeted with. The other thing that, because of the environment and because of our focus on graduates and leaders that have come before us, we study historical figures all the time. Not to idolize them, not to put them on some, big podium, but to really try to understand, how they led, how they talked, how they interacted with soldiers, to make sure that we could, try to take those good lessons forward. There's one in particular, and some in the audience may know. On day one, you're greeted with this. It's basically a speech that was given back in 1879. It's called Schofield's Definition of Discipline. And it was a speech given by a superintendent back, General Schofield. He's sort of a legend in his career. But the whole, it's again, Schofield's Definition of Discipline. I still remember it all, today. And this is 35, 36 years later. The discipline which makes the soldiers of a free country reliable in battle is not to be gained by harsh or tyrannical treatment. And it goes on. And the idea is that you can't be a leader and just rip commands out left and right and expect this robotic, automatic reaction, especially in combat. As a young cadet reading those words, I didn't really make sense of it until my service when it really mattered in combat with our soldiers. You can't get anything done by that. That kind of tyrannical. Maybe there's an example, one or two but it just doesn't happen. You have to love your soldiers. You have to respect them. You have to appreciate them. You have to empower. All that stuff was taught to me, thankfully, by this great institution not too far away. But those are the two. It's character, and it's this idea of compassion. Really compassionate leadership.
When you were, you served with you were the Silver Star with Valor. I mean, you were in the thick of it, and obviously it shows. Was there a leader that you served under, or served under you that stuck out when you think about Iraq or Afghanistan, or your two tours in Iraq?
Yeah, Steve, thanks for asking that question. I could honestly, I know we don't have time for this, but that's not something we talk about a lot. But the leaders that were around me in that unit were our nation's best. I mean, they are heroes. My battalion commander there, I won't go through his whole bio, but he was a giant, and he carried that organization through some very, very difficult, very challenging times, and also some very successful times as well. But when I think about that individual and what he meant to me as a young major at the time, I was blessed. I was lucky to see that example. I was lucky to see him, lead from the front and with passion. Leadership lessons that stick with me today. But it wasn't just this battalion commander who's larger than life and continuing to serve. Those captains, oh my gosh! Someday I'm not a great writer, but someday I'm going to try to capture this. Not necessarily to write a book, but to make sure my boys know about their heroism. These captains, these sergeants. Wow, I learned so much from them as well. The way they carried themselves, the way they acted in combat, the way they reacted to the enemy. I could go on, but it was obviously a formative time of my life, and thank God I was able to serve with those heroes.
Would you do anything different now, having the beauty of history?
That's a great question too, Steve. I don't think I would change a thing. I mean, of course, I would love to have some of those we lost,
yes.
All of those we've lost back with us. I would love to have made maybe a different decision that could have resulted differently. But I mean, we served together, we fought hard, we served honorably, and today, I think, I know, the love and respect that we have for each other, just like those that you served with as well, Steve. It's a powerful thing. It's a gift that honestly, that I will never, be able to properly repay.
When you have these graduates leaving West Point now, and I'm sure you're getting in front of everybody, people that are serving or units that are deploying, what do you tell them as advice? They're packing their bags, they're deploying, they're going overseas. Yeah. What do you tell them their best advice to get through?
So I would say I kind of do it in three parts. The first is, regardless of what your faith is, regardless of how religious a person that you may be, I really encourage them, to focus on that aspect of their life. That carried us through some very difficult times. So that's the first thing I'd say to any young one that's making a deployment. The second thing is, trust your leadership and the people around you. There's got to be trust up and down that, we in the military we call it the chain of command, but there's got to be trust and belief across that organization. And when you demonstrate, I think, as a leader, that trust with the people around you, it'll be reflected in the organization that you're leading. So there's an element of faith, there's a huge element of trust, and then there's the idea of purpose. And it's really to ensure that over and over as a leader, and it's not just in combat. I mean, this is every day of our life. I think purpose is one of the most important elements that you've got to be able to communicate. If people don't understand why you're doing something, especially in combat, but if people don't understand why you're doing something, they may kind of stumble towards it. They may bump into it, but they'll never achieve it at the real level that you would like them to. When people start believing, I think, in that purpose and owning it, then your organization can take off. I mean, then your organization can reach its absolute full potential. So that's how I'd say. When we talk to and today, I mean, I know we were busy, back, right after 9/11. Our Army, our armed forces, remain incredibly busy today. I mean, they're engaged all over the world. We have 3 sons that are graduates of West Point, 2 captains and a lieutenant. And those young ones, of course, we think the world of them. But they're busy. I mean, they're working hard. And so it hasn't slowed down for them. It may not be the kind of the same environment that we serve through, but they're working hard. But again, like I said earlier, they're our nation's very best, and I hope we can all feel very proud of them.
Just going back to the graduation from West Point, was your uncle still working at West Point when you graduated?
No, he had. It was funny. Sergeant Bieger, Tom Bieger is his name, Sergeant First Class. He was always kind of there, and when I was a plebe, you're looking straight ahead. You don't want to make eye contact with anybody. You don't get yelled at. But every now and then I kind of see a glimpse of my uncle, just sort of in the background, just kind of keeping tabs on me. And he told me years later that there was a couple of key points where I was really screwing up, that he sort of intervened on my behalf. So he was kind of my guardian angel there. But he left after, really right after my plebe, my freshman year, plebe year, and moved on to Europe and continued to leave.
One of the things that, some of the people watching this are going to be graduating high school or college now, and maybe going to graduate school. And one of the things I try to tell, first thing when I ask young people that are graduating and going into now, what are you going to do? A lot of them don't know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, that's okay,
right.
Which is contrary to, I think, what their parents want to hear.
Right.
They want to know you're going to school, you're going to get this job. But I think it's a big mechanism for happiness is, people push you, you might want to do this, but you end up getting your interest here. Did you have that flexibility at West Point to change gears if you need to when you start off there and say, hey, man, I was going to go into infantry, but I think I might want to go into science or I'm going to go into technology?
It's not completely flexible, and there's a couple key decisions that you make that you really got to stick with. But there's great opportunity. Those plebes get there and it's wide open. The military academy, and all of its departments and all of its greatness on the academic, the military, and the physical. There's enough there for our cadets to pursue their passions and again reach their full potential. But once they make these decisions, these key decisions like branch, you really got to be committed.
Yep.
There might be a kind of a neat opportunity that presents that you can adjust, but you're really at that point. And the good thing is, those are informed decisions. They've spent a couple years thinking about them because they're going to spend the next 5 or 6 focused on them. So a little bit of flexibility, but the key ones they got to be ready to go.
You spent some time after, so you do your whole military career, and then you get into academia in Southern College. For some reason, a lot of you guys go down south, maybe to climate.
Right.
But you're dealing now with, I guess, a citizen that are going to Catholic as opposed to people that are going to be obeying orders and have to be in their seats at certain times. Right. How was that change for you?
Well, It was great. I mean, we were so lucky we retired out of West Point and then head down to the University of South Carolina for about a year and a half. And then after that over to Baton Rouge to Louisiana State University. 2 amazing opportunities. I know I benefited. My last assignment in the military in uniform was as Chief of Staff at West Point. So I got to serve for giants, superintendents, General retired Bob Caslin, General retired Darrell Williams. I mean, these are 2 of my heroes. So I got an amazing opportunity there at the end of the career to kind of see what right looked like at the sort of institutional level, which helped the transition down to South Carolina, Louisiana. It's no secret, but it's a little warmer down there.
Yeah.
So that was the big draw for Amy and I. But what we didn't know, because we had really didn't have much experience, was the Southeastern Conference, the SEC, is really an amazing grouping of schools. And it's not just the athletics. Athletics are off the charts. Football, of course. I mean, it's crazy. It's amazing. But the academics and the commitment to developing young men and women to their fullest potential, it's right there. And I was so energized and excited to see the faculty there in Columbia, South Carolina, and how much pride and how much energy they took to that purpose. Because it's all about the future of our nation there, whether they're studying science or it doesn't matter. The entire institution is about getting them ready for the years ahead. The sports are off the charts, though. Tiger Stadium, if you haven't been, wow, it's amazing. So we were lucky. But to answer your question, I felt like the last couple assignments in the military just helped make that transition. But again, I had to quickly learn, a little bit, in terms of language. Quickly learn not to use so many acronyms. We crush ourselves with acronyms. But so I had to learn a little bit of that. But really, I needed to catch up to the quality and the caliber of professionals that I had the privilege of serving with.
Was it weird wearing a suit as opposed to a uniform?
You had to make a few more decisions in the morning, of course. The uniform stuff is easy. It's like, but so you had to make sure the socks and the tie and all that. It wasn't crazy. It was a lot of fun.
You were ready for it?
I was ready, excited, and I just wanted, honestly, I just wanted to contribute as best I could. So there was a challenge, part of that. But again, it kind of comes back to what we were talking sort of separately. It all came down to a purpose for us. And I really think, sometimes, there's a little bit of criticism, sent in the direction of institutions of higher education. But they're focused on those, getting our sons and daughters ready for the future. And there's, great purpose in that. So it was a lot of fun. We loved, that time. When this opportunity presented itself to come back to West Point, it was a no-brainer, of course. I mean, West Point is special. It's about as close to a home as Amy and I have had. So it was an easy decision, but we do miss the South.
So one of the passions it says the passions in your life for your bio is your family, of course.
Yeah.
We've talked about
Yeah.
your wife and your 3 sons. Also, Army sports.
Right. Yes.
Was it hard to share that love of sports with other college teams?
Yeah.
Or were they like, oh, here's that Colonel Army guy, he only likes Army teams? Or
Yeah.
were you able to share the love?
Well, that's a great, so,
Because everything that every Army guy I know that went to West Point
Right.
has to say,
yeah.
beat Navy.
Beat Navy, of course. Yeah, so we kept those loyalties. But my wife and I mean, we love sports. And so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's a tennis match or if it's gymnastics off the chart. I mean, baseball, you name it. We dove right in. Got the garnet and black of USC, the purple and gold of LSU, and just dove right into it. So it wasn't hard. Of course, our loyalty is always back to Army. We always want to beat Navy and Air Force. But it was great. It was a neat opportunity.
So after a couple assignments in the civilian world and in the academia, you get this gravitational pull back to West Point.
Yeah.
And now you have another role supporting the Long Gray Line.
Yes.
Let's talk about that as the president, of the Association of Graduates.
Yeah.
How is that?
Well,
Are you that guy that when you were younger, you were like, oh, I'm going to be, or you're happy to come back?
I'm definitely that old guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at a picture, I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking old. But like I said before, when the opportunity presented, I mean, it was, how fast can we get there? I mean, West Point is special, to my wife and I, to our entire family, and the opportunity to come back and serve in this way is amazing. Our graduates we refer to as the Long Gray Line. We have just over 56,000 living graduates today. Going back to 1941 is our oldest graduate from.
I saw that picture.
Yeah, amazing.
A World War II veteran.
Yes, veteran of the Battle of Bastogne. He's an artillery officer. I mean, he's a giant. And Colonel Herbstern is his name. So back to 41. He's still kind of running. He sends me emails. He gives me guidance,
That's
and
great.
He's still kind of running things. But he's amazing. I mean, he's just such an inspiration for us all. But 1941 all the way to 2024, our last class is just over 56,000. Inside of that number, and you can kind of look at this a couple different ways. But I think it comes back to you, Steve, and your service. We have about 14,000 that are currently serving either active, guard, or in the reserves. So still in uniform, still defending our nation, just in the way that you are, Steve. And that's a large number. So a large number of our graduates are still in that service. Inside of that number, there's of course Medal of Honor recipients. There's serving members of Congress, CEO. I mean, you go through the whole thing. Yesterday, we had this incredible opportunity in our library, which is beautiful, top floor, where we honored a graduate from the class of 1959. You may have heard his name, but his name is General retired Pete Dawkins, Heisman Trophy winner, first captain of his class. Distinguished graduate, Rhodes Scholar. We had the opportunity to honor him with a really beautiful ceremony. Around him, and as you kind of do these concentric circles in this space, Jeff was there with us as well. There's just giants of the Long Gray Line. There's other Rhodes Scholars that are gathered there. There's these amazing CEOs, general officers, and it gives you kind of a snapshot of what this group of graduates means to the academy for sure, but I think also by extension to our nation. The opportunity to be able to serve that group in some way, and to try to represent and to try to engage and to try to support is once in a lifetime. So every time anybody asks me, I tell them clear-eyed, it's the job of a lifetime, and we are lucky and blessed to be a part of it.
So, Colonel, you've been really, set up for success, and you're talking about everything that West Point embodies. Throughout your career, whether it be military or now post-military, when you get stuck or you have a tough time, who's your go-to people when you need to bounce something off your sounding board?
Well, number one, no hesitation, is my wife. She is, she's been the rock of our family our entire life, and she's the only one that'll give you honest feedback. She's the only one that'll, make sure, that not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear is delivered. Hopefully, you have the same relationship. So number one is her. But then, when we speak back to the career, both on the military and for me, over on the sort of the civilian side, I've been lucky and blessed to have giants as bosses. So I engage them all the time for advice and thoughts, and sometimes I don't even need to engage. They're letting me know what can be improved or what's going well. But there's nobody like my wife. Our sons are very honest, and they give great feedback. It's hard in any position, regardless of where you're working or what you're, Steve, I'm sure you experience the same thing. To get honest, good, critical feedback is a gift. Too many times, and I catch myself in this mistake too, of just saying something because I want to make that person feel good, when I really should be a little bit more honest, because that's what they need to hear, and not what they want to hear.
Great. One of your colleagues, and now I think he's like the face of entertainment for West Point, as well as obviously the Dean of Academics, Shane Reeves, General Reeves. When he came here last year, he was talking about how it seems like the world is upside down, and we kind of talked about that earlier. You have 3 sons that are actively serving still.
That's right.
And
yep.
And you have every day you're interacting with these leaders that are going out, and I get it. You're just a few years older than me. I don't feel old until I see the cadets, because they seem so young,
right.
and they are young,
yeah.
and they're going out to do some serious stuff. What is your prognosis for going forward with the world? Are you going home with your wife at night saying,
yeah.
"My God, everything seems to be
yeah.
unraveling"? He called it a great unraveling.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for bringing up General Reeves, Shane. He's
probably one of the funniest guys.
He's hilarious, but he's a brilliant leader.
Yeah.
Incredible visionary. He's our 15th dean of the academic board. So if you just do the math, West Point was established in 1802. There's been 15 of these deans over the course of those years, which means they serve a long time. There's some years there with some, and we hope that Shane stays forever, dean for life. But I think, again, coming back to this position, and it's amazing to be inside of your county, so close. This institution, and I'm probably a little bit biased. It gives you, when you're around the cadets, or the faculty, the staff, the coaches, tax, but when you're around the cadets, you're immediately inspired. You're immediately optimistic about our future. Because it is, the world is a dangerous place. We know more now because of technology and information and data. But if you need hope in the future of our nation, find a cadet. Try to get close to West Point. I would just say, while we have this opportunity, we have close to 30 Division I athletic teams at West Point. The number is just a little bit. And if you have the opportunity and you haven't been back in a while, please come visit. Just cheer them on, and just enjoy the competition, of course. But just watching these young cadathletes in action is pretty powerful.
And it's always surrounded by patriotism too.
Oh yeah, a football game at Michie Stadium. They say Sports Illustrated says somewhere in the top 10. We've been to a bunch, SEC and ACC. Nothing comes close to Michie Stadium, and it's all about that. It's all about sort of the intersection of incredible football on the field, the nation's very best football coach, and then parachutes coming in, helicopters, flags everywhere. It's that rare intersection of nation and athletic competition. It's amazing. You come out of Michie Stadium and you feel good, of course, because the team just crushed it on the field, but you feel good about your country. And it's not just football. Right now we've got 2 lacrosse teams, men's and women's, that top 10, they're right at the, I don't exactly know the rankings today, but they're about ready to get into the postseason. They're about ready to compete for a national championship. That's a level of talent and caliber that's pretty exciting. And every sport is like that. But it's not just the sports. Last night, we were again, at the top of the library. Beautiful, the sun's coming down over the plain air at West Point. And we're watching 12 of our cadets dressed in their white uniforms playing the strings in their final concert of the academic year. So the arts, the athletics, this weekend there's a huge military competition called Sandhurst. I would just encourage anybody that's here, anybody that may be watching this video, if you haven't been to West Point lately, please come back and just see and touch and feel. I guarantee you'll walk away from the trip, feeling good about the academy, your academy, and feeling good about our nation.
Colonel, what's obviously you're going to stay in this role. What's your future? What do you look at, like in the next 5-10 years, that you want to be doing or want to have accomplished?
Well, we've got a great team there at the military academy. Our mission is to serve West Point and to serve the long gray line. I described that long gray line a little bit earlier, but there's great purpose in that mission statement. So when we look at the next 5 or 10 years, we want to make sure we're as closely aligned and attached to the academy to make their jobs easier or better, or to enhance the cadet experience. The cadets are incredibly busy, focused at getting their way through those 4 years. We are working very hard to provide the resources that puts their experience at a world-class level, which it is, and to maintain it at that level on into the future. Our vision at the Association of Graduates is to be the most highly connected alumni body in the world. So those 56,000 graduates, we want them to feel the strong connection back here to the academy for sure, but with the Corps of Cadets, and most importantly with each other. So that's where we're focused. We're focused on that mission and vision, working to get better every single day, and having a good time doing it.
Are the graduates today as prepared as you were when you graduated?
They're yes, they're better than when I graduated.
Standards are better
Yes.
where they were?
Yeah, I would say when asked that kind of a question, and I know some of our classes don't like to hear this because we're competitive, and what we experienced was the toughest ever. But our cadets, that class of 25, they are the best class West Point's produced. Again, physically fit. I mean, they're incredible. They're brilliant. They are militarily trained, and most importantly, they're leaders of character. They care about that. I have this incredible opportunity, gift, really from the superintendent, the commandant, and the dean, to be able to sit in some of our classes with our cadets. And we have this class called, the code is MX400, but the title of the class is Officership. And it's the capstone leadership course that all of our seniors or our firsties take. Steve, I don't know if you've touched it or we'd love to get you.
I would love to.
So these firsties, they're months away from graduation, are sitting in a classroom sometimes at like 7:40 in the morning. I mean, it's so. I mean, you barely have had a cup of coffee, but you'll be around 15 or so of these first-classmen, women, that are months away from graduation. And they are studying graduates from our academy out of Vietnam, graduates of our academy out of World War II, Band of Brothers, and they spend lesson after lesson after lesson studying the Constitution, thinking about the oath that they're about ready to make their own. I mean, these are our nation's best and brightest, gathered and thinking deeply about the challenges ahead of them at graduation. Again, focused on the Constitution. It's powerful. We'd love to get you. I know the superintendent would love to have you there. Again, you walk out of that thing unbelievably impressed with the caliber, but the content that they're studying, they're thinking about, and they're internalizing is amazing.
I think it. I mean, I'm super proud to have West Point in Orange County, and your recommendation to the public is to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And to I'm there regularly, a few times a month from all different types of events, but completely inspired.
Yeah.
Not only do you have the biggest and the brightest of the world coming on a regular basis, presidents, prime ministers, CEOs of corporations, celebrities, but the academics and the inspiration. When you do leave there, you do leave patriotic and with faith in this country's future.
Yeah. The two qualities, as you were saying, that I forgot earlier that you inspired me to share is, I would say, so there'll be about 1,000 that graduate, just here, May 25th, I think is the date, Saturday. About 1,000 will graduate. About 40% of them are going to go into the infantry or the field artillery, and the others are going to go where the Army needs them. 4 Rhodes Scholars in that group. That's incredible. I mean, it's really unimaginable for one institution, one class to have 4 Rhodes Scholars, except they did it last year too. They had 4 Rhodes. So I mean, it just gives you a sense for the academic rigor and what these young ones. But the best part, maybe not the best. I'm probably one of the best parts about these graduates is that when you meet them and you interact with them, they're respectful, they're humble, and they're hungry. They're respectful of the people around them that made this opportunity possible for them. They're humble because they know they got a lot to learn. They've done well. They've got their medals. They got their cadet uniforms. And then they're hungry because they're so excited about leading our soldiers in the military. It's a powerful thing to see. And when I'm away from it and I can see the interactions, I just think, wow, we're doing something right here. We're cheerleaders. In the Association of Graduates, we're there to serve, we're there to support. It's really, our great superintendent, his leadership team, and again, that the faculty world class, the staff as professional as they get, the coaches handpicked and absolutely our nation's best, and the rest of the team all focus on those cadets. You can't get much better than that.
No.
I mean, it's really amazing.
Every aspect of it, I bring my kids on a regular basis, my oldest son in particular, and seeing from every aspect of it, whether it's a sporting event or an event where you have a speaker or you see the professionalism of the cadets. So really, to summarize some of your leadership that I'm picking up here, and I've read from the bio, but we talked about is the principle, which I think was great, to have people believe in whether it's the company you work for, or if you're a firefighter in the unit, or an EMT, or a police officer, and you're facing shortages, or you're in some type of apparatus. Everybody has challenges. You never have everything you want.
Right.
So that's the principal part, is you have to get these leaders to believe, but the character too, like you said. And I think that's one of the real things that people look at when they look at people like you and search in our world right now, where is this leadership? And it's that character, that a lot of things that might be missing. Yeah. And then the final thing is what I think you started about earlier, is during the tough times with faith.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you mentioned earlier your oldest son and the visits to West Point. We've got our eyes on him.
He's 12, I know. Everybody's on a first name basis with the superintendent. He's got swag, and
I've got some paperwork in the bag out in the office, so we might be able to do some.
Unfortunately, he says to me every day, "Beat Navy," and I'm not a Naval Academy guy. I just happen to be in the Navy, but I'm very proud to have West Point here. Yeah. Before we end, I would like to open up to the audience to have them ask questions about leadership or things that maybe that you can answer. So
that's great.
With that, we have a couple mics in the audience, right? So is there? Yes, sir. Well, let's get the mic to you, so this way the Spotify, YouTube people can hear it too.
Colonel, first of all, thank you. Thank you for your service. And listening to you, it instills me with a lot of pride. So I'll walk out of here a foot off the ground listening to you. You said your father, your uncle, you, your 3 sons, all in the military. I think only about 1% of us ever put the uniform on. How concerned are you that those who serve in the military are so few families, and so few families give so much, but there's, maybe for the rest of the country, there's not the tie to the military that there should be? And is there anything that, as the president of the Graduates Association, you can do to somehow touch more
Yeah.
and get more people involved?
Yeah, sir, that's a great question. And thank you for coming this evening. I'm the one that's going to be walking out of here a foot off the ground, with your comments, so thank you. What you bring up is important for our nation. I mean, we really need to think through just service in general. And when we think about the military and, some of maybe the recent challenges in recruiting and across every service, not just the Army, it's improving, thankfully. But it's a responsibility, I think, I know of all of us. Those that have had the privilege and the opportunity to serve in the military, we need to share that as much as we can. It's one thing, to have that experience, but it's another thing to share it with as many people as you can in our high schools, in our neighborhoods, in our churches, and not just military service, but any service. If we can encourage our younger generation that this thing called democracy, this thing called the Constitution, the United States of America, is something that we all own and that we're all responsible for. Those are powerful messages. And that's how, when we think about it internally, we think about not, hey, what can the nation, do to help, solve some of these challenges? What can we do? What can we do within our ability and our families? It's really, really important. And like I said earlier, there's no secret. The future is uncertain, and it's, it'll promise to be dangerous. I kind of come back to what we talked about earlier. If you're ever, looking, if you're ever just, you have family in the area and you want to get them, close to what I would consider right looks like, bring them over to West Point. Find an opportunity to interact with either the cadre or the cadets, and you'll walk away there feeling pretty good. So when I think about, the future, I come back to your question earlier, Steve. I look at West Point, not just West Point, Annapolis, the same. The Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, the same. Texas A&M, their core, the same. Norwich. There are programs even outside the military academies that are focused on the future of our nation, and so that's the good news story. But it is the 1% that you mentioned. I think it's a responsibility of all of us to continue to improve that. Thanks for the question.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Hold on one sec. We're just going to mic over to you.
Hi, good evening, Colonel. My name is Janine Agnolette. I'm a reporter with Mid-Hudson News. And I'm wondering, since we're talking about leadership this evening, if you would be willing to discuss the U.S. Secretary of Defense and give your view on the recent group chat incident and the the violation of private and secure information in that.
Yeah.
So we'd love to know what you think about that.
Okay. Well,
as a veteran.
Thanks for the question. My first reaction is, and I sort of separate my previous active duty service in the uniform to where I am today. So I'll ask you, just in terms of really both those. The military and the military academy, our Constitution is focused on civilian control of the military. So our responsibility, at least when I was active duty, was doing whatever our civilian leadership needed us to do, and that of course that continues today. It's one of the great things about our nation. And so I won't necessarily, I'm not even in a position to be able to comment, really on some of the things that you brought up. I do believe I do believe in this nation, and I do believe that we're moving in a very, very positive direction. And again, for my little piece of this, we're here to serve the military academy and our graduates as best as possible. And that's what we're focused on. So thanks for the question. I really don't have any sort of reaction to the specific events that you raised.
Good answer. I mean, it's what we have to do as military officers. We have to serve.
Right.
Yeah. I've served under President Biden, under President
That's
Trump,
right.
President
That's
Obama, President Bush.
Right.
You have the same lineup too.
Right.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Hold on.
Thank you, Colonel. My question was, if there were a supreme law to being a leader or leadership, what would that law be and why?
A supreme law. That's a great question. So, the
Number one
The
rule.
number one. It's a great question. My immediate reaction to that is character. If you had to, boil it down to the most important aspect of leadership in my mind, it's all about character. And I'll give sort of two examples of what I've seen, and what I mean by that is a few years ago, our superintendent, and this has been shared a few times, would have the quote and saying to the Corps again, hey, you could be number one academically, you could be the fastest, the number one physically, you could be the best, the best marksman or marksman, you could be the best shooter in the Corps, but if you fail in character, you've failed in leadership. And that quote resonates, because I think when I look at over the 28, 29 years that I was in the service, the best leaders were not necessarily the fastest, not necessarily could do the most pull-ups, but they're the people that I believed in, and it all came down to character. I mean, you got to have the competence, you got to be a good leader, you got to know what you're doing, but it really came down to character more than anything else, whether I'm going to do some of the dangerous things that we're asked to do. So that would be my reaction. Is all those principles, all those things are important, but character matters the most.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, in the middle.
Colonel, again, thank you very much for your service. You talked before about purpose, that's how critical that is. And assuming that most people don't get that purpose organically, as a leader, how do you instill that purpose in the people that you are leading?
Yeah, that's a great question, sir. Thanks for being here this evening and listening to this old colonel. So to react, to respond to your question, again, purpose I think is most important. And what I've found over time, and I don't know if Steve, if you relate, but the words really, really matter. And regardless if it says, complicated as a combat operation overseas, or if you're, doing something back, or you're working in, X company or X institution of higher education, the words really, really matter. And when you think about purpose, you think about what you're doing, and you can kind of fill in the blank there with whatever that looks like. For me, anyway, when I look at purpose, if those words don't clearly resonate with me, they're not going to resonate with anybody else. And I've screwed that up many times, where I think I've got it right, but it's just not. But it's not just about the purpose, to whatever you're doing, whatever that task is. It's really about being able to clearly articulate, and then, in my mind, articulate expanded purpose. Because it's all about the why. And if people I've never been in a Fortune 500 company, but if people in any organization don't understand the why, they can, again, kind of stumble and maybe bump into it, but they'll never get to the level that you hope to. And even at that level that you can imagine, they'll never exceed it and reach their full potential if they don't get and understand the why. They may not always agree with the why, but if they don't clearly understand it. And then the last part of this is, and for me, and you got to say it over and over and over again. You can't just put it on a piece of paper and hope that everybody gets it. You've got to communicate it. You've got to re-communicate it. You've got to hear it, reflected back in your direction. But it's probably, purpose is the start point, It's all about the people in the middle to make that happen. You could talk about that forever. And then the final part for me is passion. You know, if you don't have the energy in the morning every single day, if you're not bringing it as a leader, nobody else will, it won't appear magically. You might have a bright spot here or an incredible employee here or somebody that's surprising you right there. But on a sustained basis, if you're not bringing the passion, then you can't hope that anybody else does. It starts with the leader. All three of those things. The last thing I'd say just on this piece is, and Steve, honestly, I'm not just saying this because you're here, but you're a perfect example of this, is that you've got this idea of purpose, you got people that are making it happen, you got passion. The last thing is partnerships. None of this stuff can be done alone. And I've learned this and relearned this in this current position of, you can be good, at whatever you're doing. In our case, it's, it's serving West Point and along Great Line. But you can be great when you really get the partnerships right. We're doing a bunch of stuff outside the gates there in Highland Falls, working with the newly elected mayor, working with the village and the town leadership. First to establish trust, but recognizing that nothing good happens without, real partnerships. So I got a little bit off the purpose. You got me rolling on the P's there, but for me, that's really, if you had to boil down to one, it's character, and if you had to kind of extend that, it's those 4 areas I just talked about. Thanks for the question.
Any other questions? Okay, I have 3 quick ones. One's more maybe serious. The other 2 are kind of softballs. The first one is...
Please, softballs.
They're great. The first one is the veterans of today. Like you said, your father didn't talk much about Vietnam. And we have a hard time connecting with veterans now. They come back from duty, they check out, and they want to just go back to live their lives. And we see this yesterday. We spent some time at the Purple Heart Hall of Honor. We're doing a movie next week for veterans. We do it every month. And next week, we're doing Warfare, as a new one that came out. And it's probably one of the most intense, realistic military movies I've ever seen. It's a new concept. The director of the movie had the survivors of this battle in Ramadi interact directly with the actors, and he took a backstage from them, stayed back, and let them know glamorous for love or romance or gory. It was literally what happened at this battle and how did it work out. And it's not a recruiting tool, so to say. How do we, when you come back, how do we get these men and women more engaged? We used to have major suicide numbers. They're still high. They weren't what they were 5 years ago. But like you said, from your father's experience, your experience with your father not talking about it, you now as a combat decorated veteran, and now as a father of 3, how do we keep these men and women taken care of after their service?
Yeah, that's a great, thanks for that question, Steve. There's so much, really to kind of react. I think the first thing, and as a younger officer, as a younger man, I really did not value and appreciate those generation of veterans. You'd see a veteran with one of their proud combat hats and say hello to them. Today, I don't let that happen.
Yeah.
Today, when I see a veteran, either that we know or that we see visibly, we really work to try to connect and look them in the eyes and thank them for their service. So I think the first thing is appreciation, for their honorable service. The second thing is knowing that our veterans today, 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, they're incredibly talented. They're hardworking. They're loyal. They're amazing. So when you think about opportunities in terms of employment, or you're looking for the right team, that would be the first group that I would look towards because of their talent. Not because you feel sorry for them or because you're trying to do them a favor, but because they're going to add great value to your organization. But to your point on sort of the scars and the wounds, I mean that is very real. And our graduates, all veterans, continue to work through that, and it's tough. It's something that classes will come together and work really hard to take care of each other, and that's the tightest group. But then as an association, we work to try to make sure that they're the great services that are out there they're aware of them and they're known, and the path to connect to them is as clear as possible. It's very real, and it's incredibly important. So I appreciate you asking.
So the last two is at West Point, you get to interact with some really wild rock star people from all, and also with your career, I'm sure you deployed in the USO, you get to meet some people. What person that you've ever met was the one that sticks out to you that was like, wow, I was so proud to meet her, or proud to meet him, or they left you starstruck or inspired?
Wow, that's a great question. You didn't give me that one in the...
No, I didn't.
That's a great one, though. Wow, there's so many. I tell you, yesterday is a perfect example.
Yeah.
You know, Pete Dawkins, I don't know if anybody's seen, the history or read. He is a giant in the long gray line. Yesterday when we were talking about him, it's sort of West Point royalty. And, for him, class of 59 now, with his daughter there, her family, all of us, sitting there, he stood up behind that microphone and delivered a speech that was unbelievable. And, I mean, there was goosebumps. I mean, we were, it was emotional. And so that's one example.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel a little guilty in this position because you kind of see those examples all the time. We had I'll tell you another quick, if I could. There's a point in time for a firstie when they get told, basically what branch they're going to be going to, infantry, artillery, aviation, whatever. And they're all sitting in the auditorium there at I-Call. They're all, excited. They're all, sort of, just completely fired up. In this one particular ceremony, the guest speaker, who's a giant distinguished graduate, amongst our graduates, got up there, and a huge present. The cadets are so excited about what their lives look like, and he delivered a speech of about 45 seconds or less that just, shook the entire room. And his two pieces of advice to the Corps or to the firsties was, before you graduate, and now this is 5 or 6 months before graduation, get in the best shape of your life, because you have no idea what the nation's going to ask of you, and it'll be too late for you to try to catch up. So get in the best shape of your life. And they listen because they really are in the best shape of their lives. And the second thing he said was, I know you've studied it, I know you've read about it, you've talked about it in class, but reread that Constitution. Reread it before you graduate and think about what that means in your relationship to your soldiers. And those kind of moments when you see that, it's powerful.
Really?
I mean, and it happens at such a frequent rate across the academy. It's almost impossible to try to relay. But from my own cadet experience, there is a famous general in our history, General Norman Schwarzkopf, hero of Desert Storm. He was the architect of that war. He came back to us firsties. And we're a couple months out from graduation. This giant is standing there, and he gave an incredible, speech to everybody. And then he said, and we weren't ready for this. He goes, "Hey, if any of you, care to join me, I'm going to head to the first class club, and I'm going to buy the first round," or something to that effect. I mean, the Corps went crazy. We all raced down there, and to be standing next to this 4-star general, with all your teammates there. Again, we didn't think about it back then. But when you reflect back on that, wow, that's the power and the strength of this thing we call the long gray line. So it's a great question.
Those are great examples.
Yeah, and
I've had all sorts of other answers, which is usually a celebrity, but I like that. As Schwarzkopf is incredible, individual we all remember.
Yeah.
As a hero.
Yeah, and we still, me and my classmates, I think we all think back to that day pretty fondly.
All right, so here's the last one. So it's about recommended reading.
Oh, okay.
So General David Petraeus recommended his book Conflict, which was a great book, which
Yes.
I've read it now twice because it's got a lot of information you got to try to get back on you miss. The other one was from General Reeves, which was American Caesar, which I read.
Yeah.
It took me like 3 months to read it. It was huge, which is a real biography of MacArthur with a lot, but it was, I got to tell you, it was transformational. And I went to Taiwan about a month ago, so it gave me a lot of information on the history in Formosa. Both of them did, but both of them were great books. So some recommended books for the audience and for the listeners, whether it be ones that are go-tos that you go back to, or ones that you've read recently that were pretty transformational.
Okay. So I've got a few. If
All right,
that's
great.
The first, because we talked about the world and the environment and the dangerous future. Any book I would suggest, and I don't know him personally, but by Tom Friedman is a good one. There's the world is flat. There's a number of Lexus and the Olive Tree, which is an older book.
Oh yeah.
But if you have time and you want to read, just sort of what the way the world looks today, it's incredible. The two leadership books that I've held on to, and I'll close, that really shaped me is sort of, I think, in my thinking. The first is an infantry officer's kind of go-to book, and it's called Gates of Fire. It's by an author named Pressfield. It's incredible. It's a quick read. It's about the Spartans in Thermopylae. But if you want to kind of get into the culture or the grit, I think, of the infantry and the cohesion, it's a great book to read. In terms of leadership, the book I've always held on to is called, the title is The Servant, by an author named James Hunter. It's another really short read. It's not military. You can read it on a flight, to the West Coast, but it's all about leadership. It covers a businessman, CEO who's kind of going through a hard time in his life, and he has this experience which is transformational. It's really good. It's called The Servant. The last one I'd say, and this is sort of a must read, I think, for at least my generation of officers, is by an author named Anton Meyer. It's called Once an Eagle. It's a classic. It's been generations of West Point graduates have read it. It's a long one. It'll take maybe not 3 months, but it'll take a while. But the following Sam Damon through his career, there's some leadership lessons in there that you can kind of just see how Army officers think and act. So that would be my recommendation.
These are great. Yeah, these are great.
Yeah.
Well, Colonel, I really enjoyed this, and the audience, thank you for being here as well. Thank you so much, sir.
Can I say?
Yeah.
So I thank you very much. Really appreciate this opportunity, Steve. I just want to thank you for your leadership, of this great county. What you do for the entire state. We live there on that beautiful, installation right along the Hudson River, and I know, your years of service and your care about the people of this great county is amazing. And on top of that is your service to the nation. So I want to just tell you on behalf of, my little team there at West Point, we're incredibly appreciative of you. Very thankful of this opportunity, but more so your leadership. I was serious about your oldest son.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can keep working.
Jeff Reynolds has his eye on him, as well as the superintendent and a couple other regulars that we interact with. They always ask me when I don't bring him, why isn't he there with us? But he is definitely through and through West Point.
Well, I tell anybody that I come into contact with, we're in great hands with your leadership here in the county.
Thank
There's
you.
anything we can do. I do have a small token that I wanted to present to you.
Wonderful.
Could.
I have one for you too. And,
All right.
and the reason why we do this leadership series is I think that Americans and the people around the world are looking for good leadership, not just politics, but everybody can be a leader, and a lot of people are leaders at different times in their careers, their lives, whether it be as a father or a mother or whatever your role is. And leaderships have similar traits. They have challenges. They have people they go to for inspiration.
That's right.
And that's why we do this. And that's why when we want to hear from people like you, your caliber, so you can be real with us and give us that inspiration and those stories that you have. So
Thanks,
I appreciate your
Yes.
time, sir.
Well-
and I have I have a coin for you. This is my
Oh.
my command coin.
All right.
It's not a
Thanks,
West Point
sir.
one, but
Very nice.
On behalf of our citizenry, we really appreciate you. And I'm a big Disney person, so all my coins have some type of Disney esque in there. So
So are we. Oh, that's great. Well, I didn't realize, so I'm going to coin you back. This is on behalf of the West Point Association of Graduates.
wow.
We've been in existence since 1869, but collectively, this is our team, this is our year, and this is a small token of
Sir,
appreciation.
thank you so much.
Thank
I
you very
appreciate
much.
it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much
Okay.
again, sir.
Thanks, sir.
It's been an honor.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Go Army!